App State's Cam Peoples is Senior Bowl bound and a great night of Sunbelt hoops. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
There we go. Welcome back to a new edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I am your host, Dave Schultz. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we had a great night of Sunbelt hoops. That's where we will start. Later on, you'll hear from Camerun Peoples, a running back, that is from App State and is Senior Bowl bound, and executive director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, basically called him Derrick Henry-esque. He's 6'2", 225 pounds, has breakaway speed, and at that size is a tough guy to bring down. So we will hear from Camerun Peoples. But let's start with the college basketball, because it was a great night of basketball, and these games did live up to the billing. The one we were concentrating on was Marshall against Texas State, and went a little bit different than I thought it was going to go. Marshall does win 81-73, which is a lot of points for Texas State. They don't score 73 points, and they did it mostly without Mason Harrell, their leading scorer. The only guy who scores in double figures on the Bobcats did not play in the second half. He scored, let's see, what do you have? 5 points in the first half, and only played 15 minutes of the game, all in the first half. So Marshall got off to a slow start, and Texas State had a little bit of a lead, a very little bit of a lead. But then Marshall pulled away, excuse me, and it was 20-11 and 24-13, and you just kind of thought it was over for Texas State, that Marshall was going to run right past them. And they didn't. They were tied at halftime. Excuse me. They were tied at 33 at half. And, Texas State just would not go away. Marshall's, let's see here, Tavian Kinsey had 19 points. Andrew Taylor had 20 points. They're, 1 and 3 in the Sun Belt in scoring. But you had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different players in double figures for Texas State, and that's not the way they play. And you got to give credit to Texas State. Again, Mason Harrell, 2 of 8, just did not come out in the second half. They showed him on the bench, or didn't come out to play in the second half. They showed him on the bench, not really sure what was wrong with him. But again, this game was close. It may have been, was it 68 all? Although the final score was 81-73, Texas State kind of pulls away at the end. It was 68 all with 4 minutes left to go. Davian Sykes tied the ball game up for Texas State, and then it was just all, or mostly, Marshall from that point on, right? A 13-5 run to end it. But give credit to Texas State. Give credit to, for hanging in there without Mason Harrell and a lot of guys stepping up and making a game of it. And give credit to Marshall. Every time they sort of built a 4, 5 point, 6 point lead, Texas State came back to tie it up. And it just happened over and over again in the second half. It was 41-37 and then 43-43. Let's see here. Another, 54-49. And then it got to, 56-56, right? And it got to 66-60. And then it got to 68 all. So Texas State just wouldn't go away. But in the end, Marshall is just too much. Marshall improves to, 16-4. So they're 5-2 in the conference. So a good ball game there in San Marcos as Marshall beats Texas State 81-73. South Alabama comes up short to Southern Miss. Southern Miss, after, losing 26 ball games last year, they've won their 16th. In this ball game, well, Southern Miss beats South Alabama 76-72, and another really good effort by South Alabama. They started out slowly in the first half and then again in the second half, and they wouldn't go away. It was a great matchup between the Golden Eagles' Austin Crowley, 25 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. He came in, I believe, fifth in the league in scoring, and right in front of him was Isaiah Moore, the South Alabama guard. He had 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. So that matchup lived up to the billing completely. And Southern Miss got off to a ridiculous start, like 20-11. And it just looked like South Alabama was discombobulated, really struggling just to, not turn the ball over. I think they had 3 turnovers in the first few minutes, but then Southern Miss went cold. I don't know if I've ever seen a team not score for like over 6 minutes when you would think that South Alabama would run right past them. But at the very least, South Alabama caught up. They caught up to tie the ball game up at 20. The ball game, South Alabama actually had a 37-33 lead at halftime. And then again, South Alabama started out slowly again. They had 3 more turnovers early on in the second half, and it looked like it would be all Southern Miss, but South Alabama wouldn't go away. And it was good to see them battle. Kevin Samuel had another good ball game. We'll give you his stats here in a second. I mean, they were down 8 points. South Alabama was down 8 points on the road with 12 minutes left to go, and they took the lead. So the turning point in the game, there's still plenty of time left in the game, but the turning point in the lead in the game was the Jaguars had a 62-60 lead, and Isaiah Moore, they got to stop, and Isaiah Moore's, one of those floaters rolled all the way around the rim and out. Would have been a 4-point lead. Again, I'm not exactly sure that's going to make a huge difference. Southern Miss came back and got 2 free throws, and it was back and forth, although eventually Southern Miss got to stop where they were the ones taking the lead. And I mean, this game was a great basketball game. I know the Jags came up short, but I mean, it's a 66-66 game, then 68-66. And then 68 all, and then 70-68, and then 70 all. And eventually, Felipe Hassi made an and one with under a minute left to go, and that was all she wrote for the Jaguars. Again, just a really good basketball game. It's an amazing turnaround by Southern Miss. I know Richie Riley will be proud of his guys, but it appears it's going to be a long season for South Alabama. They don't have like a third score right now. They have Isaiah Moore and basically Kevin Samuel. Again, Moore had 22 points. Kevin Samuel, 15 points, 11 rebounds, and he had at least a couple of blocks. Greg Parham, he had 11 points. Hit 1 3-pointer. He has not had more than 1 3-pointer since the Spring Hill ball game. The 3-point shot got them back in it in the first half. We're not very good in the second half, just 2 of 12. Judah Brown had 8 points. Let's see. Marshall Kearing just didn't play very much, 6 minutes, despite playing very well against the Cajuns. So another good basketball game. I know South Alabama is disappointed they came up short, but again, credit for them to play well, and credit for, both teams not folding. Both teams easily could have folded. And again, a great matchup between Austin Crowley, 25 points, and Isaiah Moore had 22 points. Excuse me. It's been one of those days. I got to cut back to, half a pack a day. I'm kidding. I don't smoke. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll go over more of the Sunbelt action from Thursday night. The Cajuns with another win, and a JMU with a huge come-from-behind victory. Don't forget, we do have Camerun Peoples, the running back from App State, joining us at the end of the show. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting, info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Dave Schultz back with a Locked On Sunbelt. Again, Cam Peoples from App State joining us at the end of the show, the final segment. As far as more basketball goes, let's see where we are. Again, the Cajuns with a nice win against Arkansas State. That's completely expected. Arkansas State, not all that good. And I do have something caught in my throat. And I guess they hung tough. You could say they hung tough. I mean, UL had a 13-point lead at half. Let's see how close it got in the second half. Again, any win on the road at any level is a good one. Pro, Power 5, Group of 5, does not matter. They had a 14-point lead. They had a 57-40 lead with 13 and a half minutes to go. Not really, 15-point lead with 8 minutes left to go. They got a 16-point lead with 5 minutes left to go. So not much of a ball game, despite the final score being only 9 points. Jordan Brown, I believe, had a huge ball game for the Cajuns. 31 points, 13 rebounds. We posed the question, who's the best player in the league? And a lot of them went off tonight. Andrew Taylor went off tonight. Tavian Kinsey went off tonight. Austin Crowley went off tonight. Jordan Brown may be the guy with 31 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 3 steals, only 2 turnovers for the big guy. Arkansas State did have 4 guys in a double figures, led by Terrence Ford, a junior, who had 14 points. The Cajuns improved to 15-4. They are 5-2 in the conference as well, like a half a game behind Marshall and Southern Miss in terms of overall record. I mean, those are 3 teams that have 16, 16, and 15 wins. That's really good. All right. The other big ball game, it's unbelievable. This is a huge story in the Sun Belt. Now I'm determined to get Keith Richard on the show. ULM wins again. They go on the road and they beat Georgia Southern. 72-59. Former Jaguar, Tyreek LaCure, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Monroe had 4 wins preseason. They now have 5 in the Sun Belt. That's crazy. Usually you don't see that to be the case. Great job by Monroe. They are right there in the standings as well. They're 5-2 in the Sun Belt. That's insane. That is insane. They're one of 4 teams that are 5-2 in the Sun Belt, right there with the Cajuns and Southern Miss and Marshall. So congratulations to Keith Richard and his Warhawks. Who do they have coming up? Do they have a shot? They're at Troy. So we'll see if that's an issue. I don't think Troy's going to be very happy because they gave one away to James Madison. James Madison was down 15 points, forces overtime, and wins at Troy 89-87. Great job by the Dukes to pick up the win. Let's see here. Morse, Vadu Morse with 25 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, leading the Dukes. And Offram had 17. Mezzi Offram had 17 for JMU. They actually had a couple of guys off the bench. Edwards had 19 off the bench, and Wooden had 11 off the bench. 4 of the 5 starters for Troy in double figures, led by Amir Muhammad. He had 19, if I got that right. He had 17. Eugene had 15. Punter had 16, and Turner had 12. But it wasn't enough as JMU goes into Troy and gets the victory. Let's see where these guys are quickly in the standings. Let's just see here. James Madison improves to 4-3. Troy drops to 4-3. James Madison 13-7. Troy 12-8. Still something caught in the throat. I do apologize. All right. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt, We've got, again, a lot of good basketball games. Old Dominion upends Georgia State 70-58. It's a big difference between playing home and away, right? Georgia State just rolled Coastal Carolina like 100-66. And they barely scored half of that against Old Dominion on the road. And so Georgia State's going to have to figure out how to win on the road. They're 0-5 on the road, and they're pretty good at home. Old Dominion is the same way. They're 9-2 at home, and they struggle on the road. But Old Dominion with a nice win, 70-58. Coastal Carolina in OT, another great ball game, although the difference in this one is 93-84. But two Sunbelt games going to overtime on Thursday night. Cliff Ellis's Chanticleers win 93-84. Our guy Mustafa from Coastal Carolina, 20 points, 11 rebounds. The Egyptian transplant does lead Coastal to a victory. And I believe that's where South Alabama is going, right? South Alabama is heading to Coastal for Saturday. All right, so quickly, let's go over quickly. Southern Miss beats South Alabama 76-72. James Madison in overtime 89-87 over Troy. Monroe over Georgia Southern. Again, their fifth win of the season in the Sun Belt. They have not won more than 5 games in the Sun Belt since the 18-19 season. 72-59 Monroe over Georgia Southern. Old Dominion 70-58 over Georgia State. Coastal in overtime beats App State 93-84. The Cajuns over Arkansas State 80-71. And Marshall goes into Texas State and beats the Bobcats 81-73. Quickly, Saturday's matchups. South Alabama is heading to Coastal, as we mentioned. Marshall heading to Jonesboro to take on Arkansas State. James Madison will go up against Southern Miss. Big ball game there in Hattiesburg. You got Georgia State taking on Georgia Southern. Monroe going to Troy. Can Monroe get their 6th win in the Sun Belt this season? Cajuns going on to Texas State. That'll again, once again, be, two divergent styles. Louisiana's going to want to play up-tempo. Texas State's going to want to slow it down, although that's not what Texas State did tonight. That may have been because of Marshall, but no Mason Harrell either. So maybe they just decide we're going to, play Marshall's way. And, it almost worked. They were right there with him. So it'll be interesting to see what Louisiana does against the Bobcats, and App State taking on Old Dominion. All right, when we come back, you will hear from Camerun Peoples. He joined me on the game plan this week, the radio show I host here in Mobile. During the Senior Bowl show is what it turns out to be. But he was really good. Didn't realize it until I looked it up. He's from a very small town here in Alabama. And listen how he found to go to App State. We will do that next. But let me tell you about Built Bar. And I am chugging these down. That's not the right word. I am eating them a bunch. I got 13 of them the other night in Sam's, and I'm not sure I have half left. They are a great, delicious treat with not all the fat and calories. You got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year, already down a few pounds. And if you like me and you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then, man, I've got the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, and you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I've had salted caramel and cookies and cream. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like candy while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they're healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. I got mine at Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. My 13-bar box came with cookies and cream and salted caramel and 1 bonus coconut puffs. I've not had the coconut puffs yet. I'll report back from that as well. But again, these are really good. They are a snack. They're not a meal. They are only 130 calories. But for only 130 calories, you're getting a ton of protein with the 17 grams of protein. Okay, We here in Mobile do get a chance to host the Senior Bowl, which is coming up in Senior Bowl week is in about a week and a half. Not this Monday, but everyone's going to report. We'll be here by the following Monday. And it's always good to see when we get some Sunbelters, right? We got Jalen Tolbert and Darrell Luter Jr. from South Alabama. And we've had Jake Andrews on. We've had an Old Dominion offensive lineman on. And now we're going to talk to Camerun Peoples. Again, he joined me for the Senior Bowl show earlier this week on Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP. Here is App State running back Camerun Peoples. All right, I want to thank Cam Peoples for hopping on the podcast. He was great. He was fantastic, and looking forward to having him here in Mobile. It's a great night of college basketball on Thursday night in the Sun Belt. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is a huge help. It helps spread the word of the Sun Belt. I know the Sun Belt has a podcast, the conference itself, but that's only 3 times a week, even if that. This is every day, Monday through Friday. I will be here. Again, we're only a few weeks away from softball starting, and certainly baseball will follow that as well. Southern Miss in a lot of preseason top 25 polls, so we will be all over them as well. Always the Cajuns are good, and heard a little bit of a turnover from South Alabama as far as baseball goes, so we'll see how the Jaguars are at that. All right, want to, again, thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. We'll talk to you next week. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We will update we'll have a full recap of Saturday's actions for Monday's podcast. Once again, I'll say it again. I am Dave Schultz, your host. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.